the night my parents celebrated their 25th wedding anniversary. My father told me there was no room for me inside the house. So while hundreds of guests laughed and toasted in the banquet hall, I sat alone in the garage. But before the night ended, an old envelope hidden behind a dusty toolbox revealed a secret that shattered everything I thought I knew about my family. My name is Ethan Carter, and until I was 26 years old, I believed I understood my place in my family. I wasn't the favorite child. That title belonged to my younger brother. Ryan, everyone knew it. Nobody said it out loud, but everyone knew. Ryan could do no wrong. When he crashed Dad's car at 17. Dad bought him a newer one. When he dropped out of college twice, Mom called him a free spirit. When I graduated with honors and got my first engineering job, Dad simply nodded and said, "Good. That's what you're supposed to do." I spent most of my life trying to earn approval that never came. Eventually, I stopped trying. At least that's what I told myself. The truth. A small part of me never stopped hoping. Maybe this year would be different. Maybe Dad would finally see me. Maybe he'd be proud. Maybe he'd treat me like a son. Those thoughts followed me as I drove toward my parents' enormous anniversary celebration. The event was being held at a luxury country estate outside town. My mother had spent months planning it. Over 300 guests were invited. Relatives from multiple states were flying in. Business partners, old friends, neighbors, people I didn't even recognize. It was less like an anniversary party and more like a royal wedding. I parked my car and stared at the mansion. Golden lights covered the trees. Live music floated through the evening air. Valets rushed across the driveway. Guests in expensive suits and elegant dresses walked through the entrance. Everything looked perfect, at least from the outside. I grabbed the gift I'd spent weeks choosing and headed toward the front doors. The moment I entered, I spotted Ryan. Of course. He stood near the center of the room, surrounded by people, laughing, telling stories, acting like he owned the place. When he saw me, he smirked. "Look who finally showed up." I ignored the comment. "Hi, Ryan." He glanced at my gift box. "That's cute." I frowned. "What?" "Dad spent $40,000 on this event." He laughed. "You really think he cares about whatever's in that box?" Same Ryan. Same attitude. Same need to make everyone feel smaller. Before I could answer, Mom appeared. Her face brightened immediately. "Ethan?" She hugged me tightly. For a moment, I felt like a kid again. "I was worried you wouldn't come." "Why wouldn't I?" She hesitated, then smiled. "No reason." That answer felt strange, but before I could ask, another guest interrupted her. Mom was pulled away, and I was left standing alone again. The evening continued. Guests arrived. Champagne flowed. Music played. Everyone seemed happy. Except me. Something felt off. I couldn't explain it, but I could feel it. Like a storm approaching. Invisible, yet unavoidable. An hour later, a hostess approached me. "Excuse me, sir." "Yes." She checked a clipboard. "Could you follow me, please?" I assumed she was taking me to my assigned table. Instead, she led me through a side hallway. Then another. Then through a back door. Outside toward the garage. I stopped walking. There must be a mistake. The hostess looked uncomfortable. I was given specific instructions. Instructions from who? She swallowed. "Mr. Carter." "My father." A cold sensation spread through my chest. The hostess opened the garage door. Inside sat a folding table. 3 plastic chairs, a small portable heater, and 2 elderly distant relatives I barely knew. I stared in disbelief. "No." The hostess looked embarrassed. "I'm sorry. This isn't my table." She lowered her eyes. "It is." I laughed. Not because anything was funny, because I genuinely couldn't process what I was seeing. 300 guests inside. A luxury estate, and my father had seated me in the garage for extended family. Those were the exact words printed on a small sign attached to the table. Extended family. I looked back toward the mansion. Music echoed through the night. Laughter poured from the windows. Meanwhile, I was sitting next to lawn equipment and storage shelves. I wanted to leave. I should have left. Any reasonable person would have. But I stayed, because despite everything, I still loved my parents, and because some stupid part of me still hoped there was an explanation. Maybe seating had gotten mixed up. Maybe there wasn't enough room. Maybe, hey. I looked up. My cousin Lily stood in the doorway. Her expression was horrified. "What are you doing out here?" I pointed at the sign. She read it, then looked back at me. "No way." I forced a smile. "It's fine." "It is not fine." Before I could stop her, she stormed toward the house. I knew exactly where she was going. Toward my father. 10 minutes later, Dad appeared. His expensive tuxedo looked flawless. His expression didn't. What seems to be the problem? Lily folded her arms. "The problem is your son is eating dinner in a garage." Dad sighed heavily, like we were inconveniencing him. There weren't enough seats. I stared at him. "Seriously? Don't start." "Start what?" His jaw tightened. "A scene." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. A scene. "You've always been dramatic." That hit harder than it should have, because he actually believed it. Dad genuinely thought I was the problem, not the fact that he'd hidden his own son in a garage. Lily looked furious. "Uncle Robert, this is ridiculous." Dad ignored her. Instead, he looked directly at me. "If you're unhappy, you can leave." Silence. Absolute silence. Even Lily looked shocked. Then Dad turned around and walked away. Just like that. No apology, no explanation, nothing. He disappeared back into the party, back into the lights, back into the family, and I sat there staring after him. For the first time in my life, something inside me finally broke. Not loudly, not dramatically, not quietly, completely. I stood, grabbed my jacket, and decided I was leaving, forever. Not. It's just the party, the cycle, the disappointment, the hope. But as I walked toward the garage exit, my foot struck something hidden beneath an old workbench. A metal box, small, rust, covered, forgotten, curious. I pulled it free. The lid creaked open. Inside were old documents, photographs, letters, and one large sealed envelope. Across the front, written in faded handwriting, were 6 words. My blood turned cold, because beneath those words, I recognized the signature. It wasn't my father's. It belonged to someone who had supposedly died. 25 years ago, someone my family never talked about. Someone whose name had been erased from every photograph in the house. And as I slowly opened the envelope, I realized the anniversary party was about to become the least important event of the night. The envelope trembled in my hands, not because the night was cold, not because I was nervous, because somewhere deep inside me, I already knew this wasn't going to be a simple explanation. Families don't hide letters for 25 years unless they're hiding something far bigger. The handwriting on the envelope belonged to a man I'd only heard mentioned twice in my entire life. Michael Carter, my father's older brother. According to the story I had been told, Uncle Michael died in a car accident before I was born. End of story. No photographs displayed, no conversations, no family. Memories, nothing. It was as if he had never existed as a child. I found that strange. Every family talked about lost loved ones, not mine. Whenever I asked questions, the room became uncomfortable. Mom would change the subject. Dad would leave. Ryan would roll his eyes, eventually. I stopped asking. Now I understood why something had been buried, and apparently Uncle Michael had known one day I would need to uncover it. I carefully broke the seal. Inside sat a thick stack of papers. At the top was a handwritten letter. My eyes locked onto the first sentence, and suddenly it felt difficult to breathe. "If you're reading this, Ethan, then Robert finally pushed you away the same way he pushed me away. Robert, my father, not your father, not my brother. Just Robert." I continued reading. "You probably don't know who I am. Officially, I'm your uncle. But the truth is far more complicated. My stomach tightened. I looked around the garage. The music from the party seemed impossibly distant now, like another world, another life. I kept reading. Before you believe anything else, know this. None of what happened was your fault. You were born into a lie. A chill traveled down my spine. My eyes jumped ahead, searching, desperate, confused. Then I found the sentence, the one that changed everything. Robert is not your biological father. The words blurred. For several seconds, I simply stared, unable to process them, unable to understand them. My father wasn't my father. That couldn't be right. It was impossible. Had to be. Maybe this was some cruel joke. Maybe Uncle Michael was mentally unstable. Maybe, but then I saw the documents. Underneath birth certificates, hospital records, photographs, evidence. So much evidence. My hands shook harder. I sat down slowly, mechanically, as if my body had forgotten how to function. Then I kept reading. Your real father was named Daniel Hayes. This was the love of your mother's life. My heart nearly stopped. What? No, that couldn't be right. Mom loved Dad, didn't she? 25 years of marriage. A giant anniversary celebration. Hundreds of guests. Everything I had ever known pointed to that reality. Yet here, inside a dusty metal box, sat proof that reality might be fake. I flipped through the photographs. A young woman smiled into the camera. My mother, 20-6 years younger, standing beside a man I'd never seen before, dark hair, warm smile, one arm wrapped around her waist. The look in their eyes wasn't casual affection. It was love. Real love. The kind people spend their entire lives searching for.